We've got the PPI tomorrow morning and the CPI on Wednesday morning, both of them before the open. And if there's one succinct way to express my entire investment thesis right now, it's long precious metals, short equities. That simple. Hopefully that will not be in place for days or weeks, probably months. Overall pairs trade, as it were. At this particular moment, we're down a little bitty bit on the ES and up a little bitty bit on the NQ. But on the whole, a good day and record for gold, which is wonderful. And silver is no slouchy. They're up 1.7% on the futures of silver now. So as always, we begin with a spider. It's really straightforward. Resistance is right there, that price gap. And as I mouse over things, you can see them kind of glow with whatever the value is, so I don't have to read them. Sometime before the end of September or something like that, let's get down here. Let's close this gap. The sooner the better. That's a nice drop from here. That's about 300 ES points from here, I believe. But that's the target. Let's close that gap up. That would be very clean from a technical perspective. IWM has been especially weak today. This is the small caps. It was only, 3 weeks ago, less than 3 weeks ago, that we peaked right here on the 31st and went plunging. And the recovery seems to have peaked 2 days later. So it plunged on Monday. By Wednesday morning, it was all done. That was the recovery. And we've been just languishing there ever since. But it's been weak relative to the spiders and the cubes all day long. Speaking of the cubes, here we have it. We are tantalizingly close to a gap seal on that one, 455.98. And hopefully we'll turn right around from that and resume the good times we were having. And it was very short. It's funny too, because I look around, it's like, are we done with the selling? Is the bear market over? For heaven's sakes, the so-called bear market, how long did it last? So it was a couple of Wednesdays ago began. So we had Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Then we had kind of a week of choppy trading. It's 8 days. And we bottomed on Monday, a week ago today. We had maybe 8 days of weakness, maybe 8. So after decades of lifetime highs, these bozos look at 8 days of selling and be like, are we done? Is that it? Is the suffering over? No, it's only just begun. And so, yeah, Goldman Sachs, of course, which has never been a stock they don't like. It's like, we're in the 8th inning of this baseball game. No. You're going to get a little bit more objective opinion, I think, in these quarters, in spite of the promises that it's going to be all peaches and cream after this. EFA overseas, also a gap. It's still gaps galore. Everywhere you turn, left, right, and sideways, there's gaps everywhere. And there we have it, that dashed line that you see. The mega caps are holding their own because, where else is the money going to go? Apple is green, up about 0.5%, just kind of lingering here. It has sealed its price gap nicely. There's the lifetime high. I don't think we're going to see that again, but it's just hanging out here, having swiftly recovered from that. The whole drop's right there. I mean, from Friday to Monday, that's the drop. And we've undone that. So we're higher now than we were pre-crash. I've actually seen it called the crash, that few moments when we were selling hard and no one could access their brokerage save for Tasty. Anyway, that was the crash. A crash would be 5,000 points off the Dow. That would be a crash. A couple of percent. No. It's just, a slight diminishment from the obscene valuations that they were already at. Amazon effectively unchanged. Its gap is a ways away. Given the tepid recovery that it's shown so far, maybe it ain't going to get there at all. So, you know what? Let's honor that notion. Let's just lay that down right there like so, bang, and see if it holds below there. And we won't be too strident about it. We'll kind of give it a different color. NVIDIA is quite strong. I'm delighted to say I have nothing to do with it. No position. And this has been, since the peak on the 20th of June, been going down in a series of lower highs. And this is another one. Unless it pushes above here, and particularly unless it pushes above this gap, this is just scalloping its way lower. So there's that. SMH is benefiting from that to some degree. It's up a fraction of what NVIDIA itself is up, even though NVIDIA is the biggest component. But it has sealed its price gap also, and its resistance is something kind of sort of like around where I've pointed right there. We're doing a lot better on time than usual. Good. Don't have to blast through this. this Lumen Technologies, which is, extremely heavily traded these days, astonishingly, like, this used to be literally a few million shares a day as a penny stock, and now it's hundreds of millions of shares a day. It's gotten exceptionally popular. As I mentioned last week, I had a completely ham-handed trade on this one. I actually managed to lose money on this on the short side with some really bad timing, but that didn't change my disposition that this thing was in serious trouble, and it seems to be behaving that way. It's at 4.68 right now, and after hours last week, it was trading. I think it got into the double digits, but this is a staggeringly large dome. I'm not going anywhere near this at these levels. It's been exceedingly volatile, as you can see. But yeah, I bungled this one last week. What I haven't bungled thus far is precious metals. I'm a fan. It is probably the one asset that I stand up on my folding chair and cheer when it goes up. And both gold and silver, by the way. In fact, if pressed, I would actually be more enthusiastic about silver, only because I think percentage-wise, it's got more potential than gold does. But gold tends to be more robust. And if anybody had been able to log into their brokerage last Monday, again, save Tasty. Tasty is like the only one that worked. They would have gotten a great price at gold early on because it was getting just smashed. Gold got the delusion in its head that it was a stock, and it decided to fall along with all the other stocks. It is not a stock. It's real money, and I think it's got a fantastic future for years to come. So anyway, we are above 2,500. It was not that long ago, less than a decade ago, that it was less than half that price. And like I say, and this seems like a chart like, oh, it's so expensive, look how far it's gone up. But I've shown you before, if you normalize this by way of the CPI, by way of the money supply, it's a far more compelling purchase than just the plain old gold charts, appealing as it is. But you can get really excited looking at the this is not a sense you would get really excited looking at the normalized charts. That's a phrase you're not going to hear often, but it's true. So yeah, gold's doing terrific. And so here's plain old GLD. It has, and I'm just pushing my stop on this higher and higher. GLD is almost at lifetime highs. I don't know quite why that is, why gold seems to be higher than GLD itself, but the futures, that is. But whatever the reason, I'm confident that GLD will set aside its lifetime high in short order. That high, by the way, was back on the 27th of July, the 17th, excuse me. So yeah, GLD doing great, up 1.71%. And our old buddy silver, SLV, which I was getting kind of frustrated with, but that was my buy signal to be kind of irked. But it's doing 2.26% up today, and it has sealed this gap and then some. So we're going to say goodbye to that gap. We don't need that anymore. In fact, well, let's recycle it. We're going to be good environmentalist here. We'll just take this trend line and we'll drag it up here. So that's the next major gap that we need to conquer. What else is cooking? Well, DJT is cooking. As I always say, this has nothing to do with politics. I'm a simple chartist. This is just about the chart. But this DJT, this is the Truth Social stock, not doing so well. They reported after hours on Friday. Their revenues for the quarter were in the six figures, and their losses were in the eight figures, I believe. Tremendous loss compared to revenue. So having said all that, this peaked in the normal hours. After hours, it tends to be even crazier. During normal hours, this peaked back on March 27 this year at around $72. It's about a third of that now, getting about to 1/3 that value, and it has broken below. Well, it broke below this symmetric triangle a while ago, but now it's clearly shattered that pattern. So it's looking pretty weak. In the few minutes we have left, we'll go at a brisker pace. These are I've mentioned the longs, gold and silver. These are the 13 bearish positions I'm in right now in alphabetical order of their symbol. And these are all very simple, just long puts from October to, I think, as far out as January. Lots of time. AMD, and I'll just sort of mouse over the stop levels as I go through these here. Cleveland Cliffs doing great. This is a terrific one today. Let's shove him into the back so you can point there. But this is doing very nicely today. Coinbase, this is a new one, like so. And this is somewhat dependent upon Bitcoin being weak. If Bitcoin goes exploding higher, this will probably get zapped. But so far, so good. Macy's, showing a little bit of strength today. That's okay. We're still below that price gap. Marvell, I think it's pronounced MRVL. This is another new one. There's the gap on that one. As you can see, I've kind of drawn in pink each of these nice little patterns. This one's even more dependent on Bitcoin weakness. This is MicroStrategy, MSTR, which had a 10-for-1 split recently, makes it a little more tradable. Royal Caribbean, this one got into on Friday, looking good. Schwab, one of the aforementioned down brokerages from last Monday. There's the stop on that. Shopify, there we are. There's the stop on that one, also down nicely. Schlumberger, like so, another gap on that one. They're all these very, very consistent. You can see very simple to read these charts. Tesla, and of course, Elon is going to have his big interview this afternoon at 8 EST, 5 Tim time. But there's the gap on that one. Uber, did I stick around? You know what? Full disclosure, I got out of this. I'm an impatient soul. It's still not a bad short, but I do not have a position in this anymore. But I do have in this one. This is the last one. UPS, United Parcel Service, like so. So the last thing is I mentioned being on bullish on silver, mentioned bullish on gold. I got to tell you, I'm bullish on bonds, but I'm not doing anything about it. But I looked at a lot of charts this weekend that showed interest rates really topping out and heading for much lower rates. That means bonds should do well. That sounds like good news for stocks. Oh, lower rates, you're going to plunge. That's great for stocks. Not this time. Deflation, plunging economy, bad for stocks. This ain't no bonanza. It's quite different. But long gold, long silver, and bullish on bonds. I think interest rates are going to go a lot lower.